Hello, my name is Stan Hamilton. I am currently the Finance Committee Chair for Congressional District 3 Republicans, the Executive Committee, and I also served as a Platform Committee Chair for Senate District 42 in Plymouth, Minnesota, and the Platform Committee Chair for Congressional District 3 in the western suburbs here of the Twin Cities. I am not comfortable being in front of the camera. I'm not a politician. I'm just a husband, a father, and a grandfather who is concerned about the direction of the state of Minnesota, and I support conservative politics, and I'm trying in my own way to make a difference, a positive difference for the Republican Party. I want to begin by showing you a picture of my family. I'll just hold it up here briefly. And everybody has their own family. I'm just going to say I'm very fortunate. My wife of 47 years, Roxy. I have two adult children. They are both married, and together they have given us 4 wonderful grandchildren. I'm not really doing this political stuff as it relates to me. I'm in the 3rd trimester of my life, but I'm doing it for my kids and my grandkids. I think Minnesota's going in the wrong direction, and it bothers me. You can see I'm wearing a button here, and it says all it takes is 34 and 68. So what does that mean? That is my goal. I want to get 34 senators, Republican senators, in the November election, and 68 House of Representatives. We currently have 33 senators. The Senate's not up for election, but there are 2 seats that might come into play. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a majority moving from 33 to 34 senators? On the House side, we currently have 64. We need 4 more to get to 68. We would control both houses. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Because we all know the DFL Trifecta has been a disaster for us. We have moved, we've seen a shift from what I would say from makers to takers, from faith to Darwinism, from teaching students for success to indoctrinating students for dependence. And that doesn't even mention or take into account the finances that the DFL handed us, spending the $18 billion surplus, returning very little of it to the taxpayer, increasing our taxes by $2.5 billion a year for 4 years, and increasing the annual state budget by $10 billion, growing it from $26 billion to $36 billion, a 40% increase. It is not sustainable. We have to have a course correction. So why did that happen to us in the 2022 election? Why didn't we get the red wave that we wanted? I can't swear to what the cause was, but but I believe it had something to do with the word abortion. The DFL has nothing to run on. Our borders are open, inflation is rampant, the world is at war, but they do run on abortion. And they're smart about that because they position themselves as for a woman's health care and reproductive rights, and for a woman's control of their body. And regardless of our position on that matter, it's a persuasive argument to a large segment of the electorate. But not only do they do that, they then turn and they define Republicans, and not in a positive light. They define us as being anti-woman, and to take away their rights and paint us in a very negative light. And as Republicans, candidates, and our party, I think we've struggled with our message relative to abortion. We hope it won't come up. We hope we don't have to address it. But the fact of the matter, it's going to come up. It's not going to go away, and we need to tackle it head on. So we, as a group of Republicans, are coming together on Friday of this week at the Minnesota GOP Convention. There are going to be some discussions relative to our platform and our Constitution that will touch on the subject of right to life and abortion. I would like to set the background for what I believe is a a position, a strategy that will help us win elections in 2024. So that's the purpose of my speaking to you, and I thank you for hanging in. The other thing I forgot to mention, my family. It's great. Everybody has a great family. I have a little bit of a tidbit, a story I want to share with you about my family. I'll do it at the end of this message if you hang in there with me. Okay, so the topic of abortion. Currently, the Minnesota Republican Party platform is pretty much 100% anti-abortion, pro-life. That's a great thing. I'm pro-life. I want all of us to be pro-life. But the fact of the matter, our position has become a lightning rod for the Democrats, a rallying cry for the Democrats, and it has put us on the defensive. I believe that we must amend our platform on the issue of right to life, softening our stand on that issue of a total anti-abortion position, and including at least some acknowledgement of the right of a woman to freedom of choice. I would also like our platform to go further, to pivot beyond that, and to offer programs to support young mothers and the unborn. Why don't we stand for something instead of stand against something? If we don't eliminate that lightning rod, it's very difficult for us to win. So a winning strategy, let's remove that lightning rod. Okay, another thing I would like to point out is we need to be smart about our platform position and how we're going to win elections. We need to acknowledge, as either a state legislator or the Republican Party, that we virtually play no role in changing a woman's right to access for an abortion here in the state of Minnesota. Now, you might think I'm off base a little bit here, but let's review the facts. In Minnesota, the Minnesota Constitution has been held to protect a woman's right to an abortion. Going back to 1995, the Gomez case made that very clear. And then again in 2022, the case of Doe v. the state of Minnesota broadened constitutional protections around the access to abortion. So here in Minnesota, abortion is a protected constitutional right. How does the Constitution get changed? It doesn't get changed by legislators. It doesn't get changed by the governor. It doesn't get changed by the Republican Party. It gets changed by a vote of the people of the state of Minnesota. You would put a constitutional amendment on the ballot, they would vote for it, and that's how that position is changed. Some might argue if we could reconstitute the Supreme Court, maybe they would change their position relative to the current interpretation of our Constitution. Well, guess what? It's not like it is at the Supreme Court of the United States, where a president nominates a justice and the Senate approves them. In Minnesota, justices for the Supreme Court are elected on a statewide ballot by the people of the state. Yes, the governor can appoint to fill a vacancy, but all the justices come up for vote by the people. And so again, it's not the legislators that change the Supreme Court. It's a vote of the people. So we have to recognize that. Why would we put ourselves out to the voters that we're going to change the position here for access on abortion when the reality is those aren't strings or levers that we can control? So let's close our eyes for a moment and let's just pretend that in November we gain control of the House and the Senate in St. Paul. Wow, that's great, and I would agree it's great. And let's even pretend we're dreaming here that we got a super majority so that when we pass legislation, the governor we could override his veto. So what would we do? We got the majority, we're controlling the House and the Senate in St. Paul. What are we going to do about a woman's right to access an abortion? Remember, it's a constitutionally protected right. Well, we could repeal the PRO Act. the act that codified, the DFL offered it in 2023, and it passed, it codified the constitutional position, allowing abortion up to birth. It's a terrible, terrible piece of legislation. We could repeal that piece of legislation. Guess what? The Constitution, the Gomez case, the Doe case, these still are there. A right to abortion is still protected. We've done nothing by legislating or reversing the legislative gains that the DFL had. Let's go even further. We say, okay, we control the House and the Senate. We know that the House and the Senate can come together and propose the language for a constitutional amendment to be put on the ballot or a referendum in the general election. So since we've got control, let's put to a vote of the people the current position of the Republican Party on right to life and abortion. That position basically being that abortion will be illegal and there will be no access to abortion or very limited access to abortion. That's what we put to the vote of the people. Who here believes that we will get 51% of the vote of the people in support of that constitutional amendment? It's not going to happen. Polling says that about 30% of the electorate, both here in Minnesota and nationally, support access to abortion unlimited, meaning the terrible position we have here in Minnesota. But it's only 30%. But another 60% of the electorate support some access to abortion, but would agree to some restriction on abortion. So you got 90% of the electorate that's going to insist on some access to abortion. 10% are in our camp, total prohibition on abortion. We can't win elections appealing to 10% of the electorate. So let's pretend we changed our Republican Party platform and that we tempered it relative to a total ban on abortion. We acknowledged some role, some limited role where access to abortion was appropriate. And we put that position to the vote of the people. I can't say that it would pass, but I think it has a chance of passing. And if it did pass, wouldn't that be an improvement from the position that we have now? Wouldn't that be taking some of the moral high ground back and a favorable position for ourselves? I can tell you in January of 2023, there were Republican legislators in St. Paul proposing amendments to the PRO Act that would have permitted abortion in the first trimester, but put some controls and restraints on it later in the pregnancy. You know, our position of perfection, no abortion at all, should not become the enemy of the good. A position that controls or limits abortion but doesn't completely eliminate it. So I want us to be smart. There's no point for us, a candidate of the Republican Party, to support a platform position that doesn't allow us to win and for which we can't make a change on it anyway. It's to the vote of the people. There is nothing wonderful about being a martyr, holding a position that we know we cannot prevail on. A third plank or strategy, you know, we have to win, remove the lightning rod, we have to be smart, acknowledge the constitutional barriers we have, and we need to seek a moral high ground. Abandoning the pro-life, I don't want us to abandon pro-life. Candidates can be pro-life, but I want us to recognize from a legislative perspective that we have to be open to the possibility of an abortion. Well, how can that be moral? Well, right now, not having a seat at the table, the Democrats are proposing legislation far beyond the abortion issue that impacts our schools, that impacts our businesses, in a way that is not moral. It's demonizing America. It's identity politics. We can do better if we have a seat at the table. All right, so what are we going to do on Friday? On Friday, we are going to have a recommendation from a Constitution Committee and a recommendation from the Platform Committee. And both of them will impact on or change or modify or propose changes to our abortion stance or right to life position. I'm going to start with the Constitution Committee report. That report is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. I like it. Now, this is available at the GOP website. You should go download it, you should read it, you should study it, and be prepared for our vote on Friday. Basically, the Constitutional Committee is recommending two broad changes. Number one, they want to create 8 principles, embed them into the Constitution, things that we all stand for: individual rights and freedom, economic prosperity, limited and accountable government, families, etc. I think they're great. I think they are intended to be in lieu of what would normally be the platform. So that's one big change that they're proposing. Another change that they're proposing is the elimination of the platform committee, which in turn would, I believe, then eliminate the need for a platform, and in lieu thereof create some policy action committees that would be established at the BPOU level, at the CD level, and at the state level, where delegates could express concerns or make known their desire for legislative items. It would be kind of a proposed legislative action item that we would pass to our legislators. I'm not exactly certain of how all it would work, but that is the second proposal. Now, the rules of the convention currently say that this Constitutional Committee report will be voted up or down in total. We're not going to break it apart and vote for this issue or that issue. It's up or down. So how should we vote? Well, Stan, I love what they did. These are people that worked hard to come up with this proposal, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, I'm not going to support it. Under the families provision, they include a sentence that says human life, born and unborn, is inherently valuable and sacred, deserving of protection and respect until natural death. That's a beautiful statement. On the other hand, it's a lightning rod that the DFL will use against us. And I would prefer not to see that. And for that reason, regrettably, I don't think we should move this Constitutional Committee recommendation forward. I'll turn to the Platform Committee recommendation. They're coming to us with basically 2 major recommendations. Number one, they are proposing a contract with Minnesota. And that contract consists of 11 principles or planks, including promote economic prosperity, uphold our rights, strengthen our health care, educate our children, etc. They're short, they're concise, they're forward-looking, they're positive statements. I like them all. I think they're very good. And I do not see any lightning rod positions in there, so I know that I'm going to be voting in favor of those provisions. And in fact, the rules currently say, the convention rules, that those 11 items we will debate separately and vote on separately. Okay, so I think that's a step in the right direction. At least lightning rod positions are removed from our platform. It doesn't have the forward-thinking, expansive position I'd like to see, but it's what's in front of us, and I like it. But then the Platform Committee goes on, and they have a 3.5-page addendum called a 2024 Legislative Action Agenda. Again, it's grouped under various principles, and it's 3.5 pages of bullet points. You know, our old platform was 10 pages of bullet points. This is 3.5, so it's a substantial improvement. On the other hand, it has 2 provisions in it that again are lightning rod positions relative to right to life. Not that I don't support them, but it doesn't go and expand and offer other options and acknowledge other positions that people in the electorate want to hear and need to hear, especially if we want to win. So for that reason, and the rules in this case On the legislative action agenda, 3.5 pages, the proposed rules say we vote for them en masse. We don't debate each one of them separately. So in this case, I would recommend a no vote relative to the legislative action agenda items. So where does that leave us if my vision of what would be helpful prevails? We would have a new platform. It would be 1 page long, 11 principles. It would be positive and forward thinking. It would allow our candidates to define their own position on being pro-life, but then also their own position of how they will legislate in St. Paul. And I think it will be a very helpful position for our candidates. So I really thank you for listening. I want to circle back to this picture right here. This is my family I'm holding up here. And I'm going to ask you, if you take a look at my family, can you identify the person whose mother, their biological mother, loved them, wanted that child to have a full opportunity at life, but knew that she could not raise that child? Well, the person in here that is adopted and is a part of my family has been a true blessing to me. I love that person as much as I love all of the rest of the people in my family. Wouldn't it be nice if we as the Republican Party could take a positive approach? Our goal should not be to make abortion illegal. It should be to make it unnecessary. Our goal should not be to eliminate all abortions. That's unrealistic. It should be to reduce the number of abortions each year. Wouldn't it be nice if we could promote people to be able to have access to adoption? And we should create programs to make it easier both for the mom and for the family. I thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. If you have questions of me, you can email me. My email will scroll across the screen here. And I say good night to you. Thank you.